Picture this scene at a family gathering where a grandfather suddenly falls asleep during a loud conversation, or a grandmother repeats the exact same story 3 times in 1 hour, while another older relative insists that neighbors are hiding their belongings. To the outside world, these moments might look a bit odd or even funny. Families often brush them off as just normal signs of getting old or seniors being difficult. But behind these awkward social slips lies a deeper truth that society rarely talks about. Scientists and medical researchers now warn that by age 65, nearly 8 in 10 seniors will develop habits that can embarrass their families or quietly signal a serious decline in their health. Today we are pulling back the curtain on 12 unpleasant things seniors do as they age that no one ever tells you about. This video provides educational information to help you understand these changes better, though you should always consult a doctor for personalized medical advice. We will explore behaviors that might shock you or make you feel uncomfortable. However, when we reach point number 5, you will see exactly why a seemingly small social mistake is actually one of the clearest warnings that a person's independence may soon be fading away. These changes are not intentional acts to frustrate you. They are the quiet ways an aging brain and body ask for help. Before we explore these 12 crucial signs, I want you to share your thoughts. Tell us your age and the most surprising change you have noticed in yourself or an aging loved one in the comments section below. We read every single story because your real-life experiences are often more eye-opening than clinical research. Now, let us begin this journey of understanding and empathy. We will start the list with number 12, which is a common daily habit that might be much more dangerous than you ever imagined. Number 12 is forgetting personal hygiene routines. One of the earliest and most unpleasant changes many families notice in their aging loved ones is a sudden slip in daily cleanliness. Showers get skipped. Clothes are not changed as often. Brushing teeth becomes an irregular afterthought. At first glance, it might seem like simple laziness or stubbornness. Families often feel frustrated when they remember their parents as impeccably neat individuals, but science shows us that this decline is a much deeper sign of altering brain function and fading executive control. Executive control is the specific part of the brain responsible for planning and organizing daily routines. Consider the story of Edith, who is 74 years old. She once took immense pride in her crisp blouses and perfectly styled hair. However, her daughter began noticing that Edith wore the exact same clothes for days and frequently forgot to brush her teeth at night. This is not just about appearances. From an educational health perspective, poor hygiene heavily increases the risk of dangerous infections, gum disease, and even pneumonia, since bacteria from the mouth can easily travel into the lungs. Furthermore, seniors with early memory decline may not physically feel the discomfort of dirty clothes or notice strong body odors because their sensory perception naturally dulls with age. When you add arthritis or mobility challenges to the picture, suddenly what used to be a basic 5-minute task feels exactly like climbing a steep mountain. Researchers at Harvard University found that seniors who neglected their hygiene routines were 3 times more likely to be in the early stages of dementia compared to those who kept their daily habits intact. That is why paying close attention to hygiene is critical. It is not just about physical comfort, but serves as an essential early warning signal for cognitive decline. So while it might feel deeply unpleasant to point out that a loved one is not showering anymore, it can literally be a life-saving conversation. Behind that forgotten toothbrush or unwashed shirt, their brain may be quietly sounding a vital alarm. Education on these aging processes helps us approach the situation with true compassion. And if forgetting hygiene can be such an intense red flag, the next unpleasant behavior is just as startling. And if forgetting hygiene can be such a red flag, the next unpleasant behavior is just as startling. Number 11 is talking loudly without realizing it. Have you ever been at a family gathering or a quiet restaurant and noticed an older relative suddenly raising their voice, almost shouting, even though everyone else in the room is speaking normally? Families usually react with immediate embarrassment. People look around nervously, and someone inevitably leans over to whisper a gentle reminder to lower their voice. Many seniors begin talking loudly without realizing it, and while it may seem like a harmless quirk or just a frustrating habit of old age, it is usually a sign of something much deeper and more concerning. It is incredibly easy to assume that they are just being stubborn or seeking attention, but looking at this through an educational lens reveals a completely different reality happening inside their body. As we age, a very specific physical change occurs deep inside the ear. The tiny, delicate hair cells inside the inner ear, which are responsible for picking up sound waves, start to die off. This natural aging process is medically known as presbycusis. Unlike other cells in the human body, these specific auditory cells do not regenerate once they are gone. Because this hearing loss creeps in so slowly over many years, the person experiencing it often does not even notice the gradual fade of the world around them. Think about how you monitor your own speaking volume. You rely on hearing your own voice to know how loud you are being. When an older adult cannot hear their own voice clearly, their brain automatically compensates by making them speak louder. They are literally shouting just to hear themselves participate in the conversation. The scale of this hidden struggle is massive. A large study published in the Journal of the American Academy of Audiology showed that nearly two-thirds of adults over the age of 70 experience some level of hearing loss. Yet despite this overwhelming number, fewer than 20% actually use hearing aids. That massive gap in care leaves millions of seniors unknowingly raising their voices in social settings, causing accidental embarrassment or painful misunderstandings with their families. Many seniors deny their hearing is failing because of the stigma attached to wearing a hearing aid, or simply because the decline was so gradual they genuinely believe everyone else is just mumbling. This denial creates a barrier to treatment and turns family dinners into frustrating situations where the senior feels constantly corrected and alienated from the people they love. But beyond the social awkwardness, talking loudly without realizing, it can have devastating medical consequences that most families completely overlook. Untreated hearing loss is not just an ear problem, it is a brain problem. It is strongly linked to higher risks of depression, social withdrawal, and severe cognitive decline. A landmark study published in The Lancet found that seniors with untreated hearing loss had a 30% higher chance of developing dementia. The medical reason behind this is fascinating and incredibly important for families to understand. When a senior strains to hear a conversation, their brain has to overwork constantly. It diverts crucial energy away from memory making and critical thinking just to process basic sounds. This phenomenon exhausts the brain, leaving fewer resources for keeping the mind sharp. So while raised voices might feel like just another annoying old age habit, the truth is, they could be a vital warning that both hearing and brain health are rapidly slipping away. When you understand the heavy toll that untreated hearing loss takes on an aging mind, your frustration can transform into deep empathy. Instead of shushing your loved one, the best educational approach is to gently suggest a comprehensive hearing evaluation. Addressing the hearing loss early can literally protect their brain from premature decline and restore their confidence in social settings. We must stop viewing these loud outbursts as intentional disruptions and start seeing them as silent cries for medical support. Now, I would love to hear from you. Have you ever had to repeatedly ask an older family member to lower their voice or notice them struggling to follow along in crowded rooms? Please take a moment to share your experiences and how you handled it in the comments section below so we can all learn from each other. And if a voice that grows too loud can quietly reveal so much, the next change is even stranger because it transforms the very spaces where seniors live. Number 10 is hoarding old items and junk. It usually starts incredibly small. You might notice a stack of outdated newspapers, a closet full of badly worn clothes, or a kitchen drawer completely stuffed with old grocery receipts. But for many seniors, this habit of collecting slowly takes over the entire home. What looks to the outside world like a quirky attachment to useless things is actually a much deeper sign of how the aging brain handles memory, anxiety, and personal loss. As people grow older, their world often feels like it is changing far too fast. Seniors frequently hold on to random objects because they harbor a deep underlying fear of forgetting their past. To an aging mind, these physical items feel like safe anchors in a confusing reality. Consider the story of 75-year-old Lillian. When her daughter visited, she found a massive mountain of plastic bags piled high in the kitchen. Lillian fiercely defended the pile, insisting that they were far too useful to throw away someday. Families often see this as stubbornness, but from an educational and psychological perspective, this behavior is a coping mechanism for immense internal uncertainty. However, the physical risks of hoarding go far beyond simple household clutter. Accumulating too many items creates severe fire hazards and dangerous fall risks, which can be fatal for fragile bones. Furthermore, excessive clutter can lead to hidden pest infestations that become highly dangerous for an aging and weakened immune system. Beyond the physical dangers, hoarding heavily strains family relationships. Loved ones may feel incredibly frustrated and entirely helpless, while the senior feels attacked and unfairly judged. This emotional friction often leads to severe isolation, which can quickly worsen underlying depression. It becomes a tragic vicious cycle where the more items they hoard, the lonelier they actually become. Therefore, while piles of old magazines or broken appliances may seem like harmless junk to you, they are very often silent cries for stability, comfort, and control in a stage of life full of overwhelming uncertainty. And if clinging to physical clutter can become a hidden danger, the next unpleasant change is just as surprising. And if clinging to physical clutter can become a hidden danger, the next unpleasant change is just as surprising. Number 9 is repeating the same stories over and over. Every family has probably lived through this scenario. A senior relative tells the exact same story again and again, sometimes within the very same conversation. At first it feels charming, but over time it becomes deeply frustrating. Families might assume the person is simply not paying attention. But an educational medical perspective reveals a significant structural change happening inside their head. As the human brain ages, a specific area called the hippocampus, which serves as the memory center, physically shrinks. Studies indicate that by age 70, this crucial region can be up to 20% smaller than in younger adults. This physical reduction means storing new information becomes incredibly difficult, while old long-term memories remain strong. A senior might vividly remember childhood events, but struggle to recall breakfast. To fill these uncomfortable mental gaps, they naturally circle back to familiar stories. Consider 81-year-old David. During a Sunday visit, he told his grandson the tale of buying his first car 3 separate times within 2 hours, completely unaware he had already shared it. While this sounds like harmless chatter, research in the Journal of Alzheimer's Disease found that seniors who frequently repeat stories are twice as likely to later develop cognitive impairment. However, we must view this with empathy. Repeating stories is not just about a failing memory, it is about seeking emotional comfort. Reliving core memories gives seniors a vital sense of identity and control in a world that feels increasingly unpredictable. So instead of interrupting with frustration, recognize that their brain is quietly trying to anchor itself. And if repeating words reveals a hidden mental struggle, the next unpleasant change reveals itself right at the family dinner table. And if repeating words reveals a hidden mental struggle, the next unpleasant change reveals itself right at the family dinner table. Number 8 is eating with noisy chewing habits. One of the more uncomfortable changes that families notice in their aging loved ones is loud smacking lips, chewing with the mouth wide open, or making exaggerated crunching sounds during meals. To younger relatives sitting across the table, this behavior can feel deeply unpleasant or even intentionally rude. It is very easy to assume that a senior has simply forgotten their basic table manners. However, when we look at this through an educational medical lens, we discover that for many older adults, this is not intentional at all. It is the result of a body changing in ways most people never discuss. As people age, the muscles of the jaw and tongue naturally lose a significant amount of strength. Teeth wear down over decades of use, dental problems frequently appear, and expensive dentures often do not fit properly as the shape of the gum line changes. When you combine these physical challenges with a severe reduction in saliva production, which is incredibly common after the age of 60, chewing simply becomes an exhausting task. To manage their food, seniors may instinctively open their mouths wider or chew much more forcefully just to break it down. A comprehensive study published in the Journal of Oral Rehabilitation revealed that over 40% of adults over 65 deeply struggle with chewing efficiency. This leads directly to louder and less controlled eating habits. But noisy chewing is far more than just a minor social inconvenience. It is often a critical warning sign of oral health decline. Poor chewing efficiency means swallowing larger, less digested food particles, which severely strains the stomach and increases the risk of chronic indigestion. Furthermore, it can cause seniors to completely avoid tougher, healthier foods like raw vegetables and lean meats, drastically raising their risk of malnutrition. Even worse, the combination of jaw, muscle weakness, and constant dental pain can destroy their confidence in eating around others. This pushes many seniors toward deep social isolation during mealtimes, choosing to eat alone rather than face family judgment. So while noisy chewing might trigger your irritation, it is a vital sign worth paying close attention to, because behind that frustrating sound is a mouth and body desperately struggling to keep up with the aging process. And if chewing loudly is unpleasant to hear, the next change can be even harder to face. Because it comes from the way a senior's body starts to smell. Number 7 is ignoring strange body odors. This is one of the most uncomfortable subjects for families to discuss, but it is crucial for both social well-being and medical safety. Many people assume that an older adult who smells musty or unwashed is simply forgetting to bathe. However, science tells us a completely different story. As the human body ages, its chemistry fundamentally changes. Skin naturally produces different fatty acids that begin to break down in a unique way, creating a distinct scent that scientists call nonanol. This scent is frequently described as greasy or musty, and the most frustrating part is that unlike regular sweat, it does not easily wash away with standard soap and water. Furthermore, seniors experience a natural decline in their olfactory senses, meaning their sense of smell dramatically weakens. They remain completely unaware of the odor because their brain simply does not register it. Take the story of 76-year-old Evelyn. She absolutely loved inviting her local bridge group over for weekly games. However, over time, her friends started making polite excuses to leave early. They were bothered by a strong, musty smell in her home, and on her clothes, a scent she was entirely oblivious to. The social cost of this hidden change is massive. Unnoticed body odor frequently leads to painful stigma, silent judgment, and severe isolation. For seniors already at risk of loneliness, this creates another painful barrier to human connection. But beyond the social embarrassment, ignoring strange odors can actually be a dangerous medical oversight. Different scents can act as warning signs for serious underlying health conditions. For example, medical professionals note that liver disease can sometimes cause a sweet but musty scent. Kidney problems may create a distinct fishy odor, while untreated diabetes sometimes produces a surprisingly fruity smell on the breath. When seniors and their families dismiss these unusual odors as just a normal part of getting older, they might completely overlook the early warning signs of serious illness. Families often feel deeply awkward bringing the topic up, but having an honest, gentle conversation can prevent much bigger medical problems later. So, while ignoring unusual odors may seem like a highly embarrassing or minor issue, it is very often the body whispering that something internal is off balance. Understanding this helps us replace our silent judgment with proactive care. And if scent can be such a subtle yet powerful signal, the next unpleasant change is just as striking. Before we continue, please lock in your spot by hitting the like button and subscribing to our channel. Number 6 is falling asleep in social settings. It can be quite jarring to watch an older loved one nod off in the middle of a lively conversation or during a family dinner. Many seniors fall asleep in public without even realizing it. While people often laugh it off as just being tired, science shows this is a major struggle for the aging brain to regulate sleep. As we get older, the production of melatonin, which is the hormone that signals sleep, declines sharply. Sleep cycles become lighter and much more fragmented, leaving seniors exhausted. Take the story of 72-year-old Robert. During his granddaughter's school recital, he suddenly dozed off in his chair, jolting awake to stares from the audience. This embarrassing moment made family members assume he was simply disinterested. But medically excessive daytime sleepiness is highly concerning. A study published in Sleep Medicine found that over 32% of adults over 65 regularly experience this issue. More importantly, researchers at Stanford University discovered that older adults who regularly nod off during the day are 2 times more likely to develop dementia within 5 years. The brain's sleep-wake control centers physically weaken with age. So while drifting off in public may seem like a harmless quirk, it is actually a vital sign that sleep health and brain health deserve closer medical attention. And if unexpected sleep can interrupt a family gathering, the next unpleasant change is just as disruptive. Number 5 is complaining constantly about minor issues. One of the most unpleasant changes families notice in aging loved ones is a sudden shift toward constant complaining. Seniors may fixate on the food being too cold, the television being slightly too loud, or a dog barking several houses away. At first, this just feels like irritating nitpicking. However, science reveals there is much more happening behind this shift than a changing personality. As the brain ages, emotional regulation fundamentally changes. The prefrontal cortex, which normally helps us filter out daily irritations, physically weakens. At the same time, stress hormones like cortisol remain elevated for much longer periods after small triggers, leaving seniors highly sensitive to minor discomforts. A study in the journal Psychology and Aging found that older adults are 37% more likely to interpret completely neutral events as negative compared to younger adults. Consider 71-year-old Martha, who spent 10 full minutes complaining about breakfast butter being too hard to spread, leaving her daughter both amused and exhausted. This behavioral pattern has serious health consequences. The CDC notes that constant complaining often masks underlying depression or anxiety, which affects nearly 20% of seniors over 65. It can also stem from untreated chronic pain or deep loneliness. So while it seems like harmless grumbling, constant complaining is often a stressed body asking for help. And if small complaints can grow into such a heavy burden, the next unpleasant change is even more alarming. Because it often shows up in ways that shatter family trust. Number 4 is becoming overly suspicious or paranoid. It can be truly heartbreaking to watch an aging parent or grandparent suddenly grow suspicious of the very people who love them most. Seniors might insist that someone is stealing their belongings, that neighbors are watching them, or even that family members are plotting against them. What looks like irrational paranoia often has its roots in real changes happening inside the aging brain. As neurons decline, particularly in the frontal and temporal lobes, the brain deeply struggles with reasoning and memory. When seniors misplace objects, they may genuinely believe someone took them because they cannot retrace their steps. A study in the American Journal of Geriatric Psychiatry found that nearly 25% of seniors with cognitive decline experience paranoid delusions, especially in the early stages of memory loss. Consider 79-year-old Clara, who accused her son of stealing her wallet only to later find it tucked inside a coat pocket. These suspicions damage relationships, leaving family members hurt while seniors feel isolated in a world they believe is against them. This behavior is often a flashing red light for deeper neurological decline rather than a personal attack. If you find this educational journey helpful, please hit the like button, comment your thoughts below, and subscribe to our channel. And if the mind can play tricks so powerful they shatter trust, the next unpleasant change is just as distressing. Number 3 is losing control of bodily sounds. It is one of the most embarrassing physical changes aging brings. Sudden gas, uncontrollable burping, or loud stomach noises can erupt without warning. Seniors frequently joke about it just to hide their deep shame. Consider 70-year-old Frank. During a church service, he turned bright red when a sudden loud burp escaped. He earned chuckles from the crowd, but inside he wished he could simply disappear. While society laughs, these moments off the reality is grounded in biological changes. As we age, the digestive system naturally slows down. Stomach acid decreases, meaning food takes much longer to break down. The internal muscles that normally keep trapped air in check simply lose their strength. This leads to increased fermentation of food. A study in the Journal of Digestive Diseases and Sciences found that 41% of older adults reported frequent gas disrupting their daily lives. Medically uncontrolled gas can sometimes signal underlying issues like bacterial overgrowth or early liver dysfunction, but the greatest danger remains social isolation. To avoid public humiliation, seniors often start skipping family meals entirely. So while losing control of bodily sounds feels awkward, it is a loud reminder that internal systems are struggling. And if the body embarrasses seniors this way, the next change is even harder to face. Because it strikes at the very center of independence. Number 2 is struggling with incontinence in public. Few things steal personal dignity faster than losing control of the bladder in a crowded space. Consider the story of 72-year-old Helen. One afternoon at the grocery store, she felt a sudden warmth down her leg. She immediately rushed out, leaving her cart behind, vowing to never shop alone again. What starts as a private issue often turns into a humiliating public reality. The educational science is clear on this process. With advanced age, the pelvic floor muscles naturally weaken, the bladder becomes less elastic, and the crucial nerve signals that control urination drastically slow down. According to the National Association for Continence, over 50% of women and nearly 25% of men over 65 experience some form of this condition. Yet most seniors never talk about it out of deep shame. What families need to deeply understand is that incontinence is not just an inevitable part of getting older. It is an actual medical condition with clear treatments that can restore confidence. Ignoring it only deepens their cycle of emotional withdrawal and isolation. So while this physical struggle is deeply unpleasant, it does not have to mean the end of their independence. But if this feels difficult, the final change is even more devastating. Number 1 is oversharing private health details. Perhaps the most surprising and uncomfortable change of all is when seniors begin sharing deeply personal health details in public spaces. They might talk openly about their bowel movements at the dinner table, describe medical procedures to strangers in line at the bank, or announce an embarrassing diagnosis in front of casual acquaintances. Families often cringe and feel an immediate need to silence them. However, from an educational perspective, this shift is rarely about intentional rudeness. As people age, the frontal lobes of the brain, which are the specific regions responsible for self-monitoring and social filters, naturally lose volume. This physical decline makes it incredibly hard for seniors to recognize what is socially appropriate to say. At the same time, deep loneliness and a massive desire for human connection push seniors to share personal details just to be heard. A recent study in aging and mental health found that isolated older adults were twice as likely to overshare private information. For them, talking about health struggles is a powerful way of saying they are still here and they need someone to listen. It is a vital coping mechanism when their aging body feels entirely out of their control. Families should respond by listening with empathy rather than shaming them, because understanding this vulnerability is the ultimate key to true compassion. When we step back and look at all 12 of these behaviors together, a profound realization begins to emerge. Aging is not just about gray hair and wrinkles. It is about the quiet, often unpleasant changes that sneak into daily life. From forgetting to shower to oversharing private health details, each of these 12 truths reveals how fragile both the body and mind become after 60. Throughout this educational journey, we have uncovered that what looks like stubbornness, laziness, or intentional rudeness is almost always a biological or psychological cry for help. The brain shrinks, hormones fluctuate, digestive systems slow down, and sensory perceptions fade away. These are overwhelming internal battles that seniors fight every single day, often in complete silence due to the intense fear of being judged. When we react with frustration, embarrassment, or anger, we only deepen their shame and push them further into severe social isolation. But here is the most important part: none of these changes mean dignity has to be lost. When families educate themselves to notice these early warning signs and respond with patience and empathy, seniors can keep their independence and self-respect for far longer than they think. Instead of fighting with your loved ones over loud voices or strange body odors, you can recognize these moments as crucial signals to seek professional medical evaluation. Always remember that this information is meant to guide you educationally, but you should always consult a qualified healthcare provider for proper diagnosis and treatment. By replacing our silent judgment with proactive medical care and deep empathy, we transform the entire experience of growing older. Aging is a path we are all walking, and providing grace to those ahead of us ensures we will receive it when our time comes. Now, I want to hear from you. Have you noticed any of these changes in your own life or in someone close to you? Please take a moment to share your story in the comments section below. We are reading every single one because your experience might be the exact thing another viewer needs to hear tonight. If you found this video eye-opening, do not keep it to yourself. Hit the like button, subscribe to our channel, and share this video with your family and friends. Because the more we talk openly about aging, the less power these struggles have to isolate or shame the people we love most. Thank you so much for watching and learning with us today.